Hello, and we are back with our sustainable growth sessions with Scale Up. Before Christmas, we were really looking at that sort of overarching points of how can we really drive sustainable growth. So we looked at culture, we looked at OKRs and cross-functional teams, and then really started moving into marketing tactics and what we should be doing within our marketing channels. So last week we talked about how to repurpose content and really think about quality rather than quantity, but really repurposing it so we're using it on every channel and using it so actually we get the ROI from each piece of content that we're creating. And I'm super excited today to be talking about storytelling because it is so important in everything, across everything we do. So welcome, Alberry. How are we doing?
Hi Lucy, how you doing? I'm good, thank you.
And so we'd love, please, just as we start, we'd love to just hear from you, like what you do, what you've been up to, and a bit of history to get before we start.
Sure. So I'm kind of I guess I've always been a content guy, deep down. My kind of came from a background in entertainment and broadcast back in the noughties when it was still a thriving industry, and ended up back then getting quite quickly into content with brands. So did a lot of work with Red Bull in the early days when we were probably one of the only brands creating quite audacious content, which was incredibly engaging. Everything we hear about now about kind of infiltrating communities, doing kind of grassroots content, and then monetizing it, platformizing it across broadcast and digital, and that really sort of begun my journey into kind of content and storytelling in a commercial sense, really. Been a few big places over the years, and like Tesco, Flutter Group, and Virgin. And for the last few years has been kind of consulting more in the venture space around early stage startups. But what feels particularly pertinent right now is storytelling is kind of right back at the forefront of what we do. Ability to connect with people on a fragmented media landscape. And the challenge that I hear every day is just like, how do we cut through? How do we create stuff that creates memories? And as marketeers, that's what we're trying to do, isn't it? We're trying to make ourselves a little bit more front of mind than our competition. So good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. And I do totally agree with, if we think what's the stat that people see about 5,000 messages a day, how do you become the one that they remember? And I think also is naturally we do remember stories about people. I remember everything about someone. I might not remember their name, but I remember it all about everything they've told me. And I think that's what we really want to do, is making sure that you're sticking front of mind, even if you're not actually in market at that moment.
Yeah.
So I think one thing I wanted to touch on right at the beginning was brand storytelling is a phrase that I feel is kicked about a lot, thrown about in sentences, where I don't think it's always right. And so I'd love to know, from you, what is your sort of definition when we're thinking about early stage venture-backed tech startups? What do we mean when we say brand storytelling?
It's a great one, and I think it's one of those. I totally agree. It's been kicked around. It gets used out of context. Is something of a buzzword sometimes. It's kind of become the new word of content in many respects. But I guess for me, if you look at the ways actually humans communicate, and stories, are what give us our history, what give us our past and our present, and they're a means of communication that isn't just fact-based, isn't just cold hard data or figures, and it's something that we can emotionally resonate with. So you tend to think of stories of once upon a time, or and absolutely they are, but I think in a kind of creative commercial sense, it's giving people giving people information in a way that they can relate to, they can hold on to, that is more memorable than just plain messaging. And in its, and I always say, like, storytelling doesn't start and end with kind of marketing comms. It should be the lifeblood of your business from your product upwards. So there's an opportunity at every stage, within a tech startup. What's your founder's story? Why are they there? Where do they come to? Because chances are, if you're telling an interesting story about them to start off with, that's going to resonate, because people recognize it, and they might have been on that journey, they might be going on that journey. So you're creating that, the simulation, you're creating that kind of connection, I guess, right through to product. When you've got a product, what can you do to make it more memorable? I know we were joking before we came on about Duolingo and that really annoying bird, but that's probably done more to elevate it than it has it not, in terms of, like, what it can actually create memories from. So I think they're all things we should think about, but don't leave it too late. Don't wait until you're looking at a content calendar going, Christ, what do we do for stories? You're like, no, you should have thought about that when you were designing, developing this product, because you need it if you're going to cut through.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And one of the things that people ask us is, sometimes it's really natural and people already have the story, and as soon as you meet a founder in the early team, they'll talk to you about that as how they introduce the product. But sometimes it doesn't feel quite as natural. And what's this balance of sort of fact and fiction, of how do you articulate your story so it's really interesting and memorable, without, if you don't have, I was caught at the bottom of a canyon and designed, the only way I could get back out was to design my rope myself, and I came to this.
It comes back to that, that another overused word, authenticity, isn't it? It's got to be believable. And the best stories, probably more likely are the real ones. Not to do a disservice to Hollywood and that kind of hyper realities we create, but I think it's where the challenge I get from clients is helping them mine that story. So that I find it, they probably have it, but it's listening to them, it's listening to the whole piece, it's unearthing the whole piece. It's like getting under the weeds of their business. And as a storytelling professional, it's that kind of almost journalistic mind of going, there's an angle in here somewhere, we just need to help you find it. And it might not be always obvious. I cited the example last year working with a luxury fashion startup in the UAE, and what the two founders did was quite remarkable. They gave up their very very comfortable consulting lifestyle to take a punt. And whether it's your Simon Sinek's on the street asking people, well, what would make you start a business tomorrow? It's hugely relatable, yet they didn't want to talk about it. It's like, well, guys, I think that's the most authentic thing here, is the fact that you've just you've walked away and you're taking a risk and a challenge, and that's a human story. So that the human at the center of storytelling is as we know, always more powerful. It's the reason that a face on a thumbnail on YouTube will get more engagement than just a graphic. So it's knowing where, it's knowing where to look, and I think that's the first challenge, because we don't want to, if we venture too far into sort of the inauthentic, then it starts to become a conceit, and there might be a place for that, but grassroots, it's look at what you've got in the tool case. We'll find it.
And how much do you think on that? Because I think the example with the founders in the UAE is really interesting. And how much does it have to be about the founder and the founding team versus the brand? Or
I think it depends on the category and sector and what you're trying to do. I mean, that was when you're starting with, you know, a blank sheet of paper, then you know, you can take it always. It could be the founder's story if it's interesting. Go back to what I said before, like, you know, it's starting with the product. So how do we design storytelling into the product? So when you look at sort of the, you know, the brands in the consumer space who do that well, you know, one of the examples I give at the moment is like Vacation, which is like, you know, this sun cream that comes from this world of kind of like 1990s Miami, where, you know, it's to create more of a story, they put the sun cream in a whipped cream bottle. So it's, you know, it's that kind of chaos packaging. Why do they do that? Well, you know, traditionally people from the last 5 years will talk about sun cream in terms of skincare, skin cancer, and, you know, absolutely, that's kind of it's kind of table stakes. But how do we elevate that so that when we hit, you know, the social feeds, when we hit those, you know, platforms where we need to stand out, we're already halfway there because we're not making it up. The packaging looks like this, therefore we can expand on that. And I love that idea of when we, you know, when we're designing brands and when we're thinking about storytelling, like, you know, what are those opportunities to you know, storytell, and that's good branding. I mean, in the Vacation example, the delivery note and a reference for people probably just about our age, maybe a bit older, but telex paper, which used to have the kind of the perforated edges down the side,
Yeah.
which is something you'd, you know, with a 90s reference, go, well, that's the delivery note. I mean, gosh knows the conversation between the, you know, their you know, finance director going, I think we might be expanding the cost of goods a little bit too far here. But in essence, what you've done is create another moment to reinforce that brand. And, you know, let's think about storytelling as, you know, the brand as a whole, not just the communications.
Yeah, so such a good example of how to use it across every touch point, so you're feeling like you have a relationship with it and you're a member. And why do you think what is it about storytelling that makes it so important in early growth phases?
It does the first job of giving people something to attach themselves to. You know, if we think we're in a, you know, with any product, unless it's, you know, truly innovative and breaking through, it's probably got competitors. It's probably, you know, going into a marketplace that might have something similar, that might, you know, all, you know, might do exactly the same thing as something else. So it's a differentiator, first of all. It's something that, you know, gives it that, you know, something else to talk about. And I've seen that, yeah, more in the B2B space now, where, you know, LinkedIn is full of wonderful examples of terrible B2B marketing, where it's, you know, slides and facts. It's just like, okay, I'm human. I'm, you know, I might be looking at LinkedIn now, but yeah, I was looking at, you know, TikTok 5 minutes ago. So it's different. Yeah, differentiation, I think, is a big play in it. Human connection, you know, what's the, you know, it's very hard to get excited about inanimate things. I mean, I remember years ago in days at the Discovery, like, you know, making documentaries about, you know, factories and vehicles and stuff, and they're in a really hard position, and they've kind of, you know, I think that crack that formula that when you're talking about kind of big inanimate objects and factory stuff, you have to find the human story in it. Otherwise, it's just like looking at big machineries. It might, you know, be up there with kind of like dull postcards of things that, you know, inconsequentially happen. And I think, yeah, if you get it right, then it's, you know, it's not just one story. It's about, yeah, how does that become your master narrative that you can then, you know, take into your email, take into your, you know, your digital comms, take into PR. I mean, they're all a good story fuels multiple channels, and I think that's, you know, that's absolutely key. Without it, you kind of, I think, quite quickly get into tactics. And I think, you know, there's different ways to convey information and message. Be original, be creative with it. You know, just think a little bit more than, yeah, this kind of narrow and yeah, performance mindset that I think, which we sometimes get a bit, guilty of, because we want that, we want that ROI straight away. And we go, well, we'll feed this channel with this. It's like, well, cool, creative effectiveness is the thing, like, for all the optimization we can do elsewhere. We come back to that, that creative effectiveness piece that can be a 10x on something succeeding and not.
Yeah, you've got to, and that is really for a lot of the early stages, especially when you're breaking into a new market. You do have to punch above your weight. You can't spend pound for pound against your competitors that have raised a lot more and a lot further along their journey. So it is about finding a way to cut through and being seen as a relevant brand to that specific audience.
Yeah.
And I think we've touched on it, but just to sort of clarify why storytelling is becoming more important now than with everything happening, and how comms are developing over the last few years.
I think there was a great article, I think just before Christmas, and just looking at, there's a kind of a bit of an arms race at the moment, that we know that, in the channels we operate in, let's just take, social platforms as one of them. We know algorithms demand more and more content, and at the same time we're trying to build brands. We're trying to build things that actually create those memories, which is hard in that. And you're trying to atomize things constantly to keep the demand. You're creating a beast. You then look at along to come kind of generative AI and some of the brilliant platforms in that space that help us do those kind of those multiples and do those creative variants, whether it's copy, image, and everything else. It's quite quickly to believe that if you start with one, put it into an AI, as it were, and make 12 variants, it doesn't make it 12 times better. It means you've got something that's 12 times as bad, or it's 12 times the shit, as I said the other day to someone. But so it's I guess we're kind of in that space where there's a huge demand for more content, and it's the bedrock that that underlines, that underpins that, I think, really. It's harder and harder to harder and harder to stand out. That'll always be a constant. So I think to your point, it's like, how do you garner an unfair amount of attention, which you've got to do, which is kind of how do you hack things that just do things differently, and that's hard. I mean, that's not but it's an easy line to say, we're going to garner more attention than our bigger peers. And it's like, with a small team, with with limited budgets. But I love that. I mean, that's the creative challenge, isn't it? That's the bit that everyone goes, yeah, okay. And
in a way, you can play a bit more as, I like playing as a challenger as well. Like, you can do that as a smaller brand that's just coming out. Completely. You haven't floated, you haven't got as many people looking at it as before, so you do have the opportunity to just try a few more things.
There's two great examples. I think there was the one before Christmas, and this is how unsticky it was, because I can't remember the company. I know what it did, but do you remember the LinkedIn kind of wrap-ups it was doing under last year that everyone put on?
Yes. It's so
can
good.
Can you name the company? It was Studio something, but it was a really clever way, because you had this kind of virality to it, where Christ knows what it's done with all the data, but I was just like, yeah, I'll do that. And it came out with my best quote of last year. And I think I'm sorry. Businesses make products. Businesses sell products, brands sell emotions. I was like, did I say that? Oh, okay, I did. And it
definitely keeping it.
I'll put it on my LinkedIn now. It was brilliant. Unfair way of like generating attention, like Bawdy, which again, just blew up and going, oh my gosh, I can connect with people and do things. You're thinking that's really clever, and then you look at the layers of storytelling within that. It's going, why is it Australian? Well, Australians have they've got like calm, pally kind of relaxed thing. Yeah, scrape my LinkedIn, go for it. All right. And you have that interactions with it. You're thinking, well, that's really smart. I mean, I could think of 110 of the dull ways they could have launched that and not generated the noise. So
yeah, just to give it was co-author.
That's
yeah.
right.
I did have to look it up, but I did think they deserved the credit because it was brilliant, and I think everybody I know did it a couple of times as well. It was and what I mean, obviously we can't have a conversation at the moment without talking about AI, because it is a phrase of the last couple of years. But what is that? What is the impact it's having on brand storytelling at the moment?
I think if we look outside of our industry, and I think this is where I'm seeing like the true creative artists, the independents who are almost the kind of new content creators, really. The younger generation who are using tools like Runway are producing beautiful, brilliant, amazing films and content. They're unrestrained by the kind of brand guidelines, by policies on it. And we're kind of limping behind a little bit, I think, in an industry, and fully embracing it. And I can see why. And I was speaking to the event last Tuesday, and there was people from Mars and PepsiCo there, and to say, look, we know it's coming. We want to do more, but just trying to, we've got 150-year-old brands here. We don't want to, cock it up, as it were. And that tension between embracing it. So I think that if we take it in that kind of that narrative sense, and there's huge potential there. I think when I look at the kind of tech and tools that I use and recommend to people, things like Pencil Pro from the Brand Tech Group. Brilliant. I mean, why wouldn't you creatively test all of your assets, let it generate them, and come back with a predictive analysis on, is it going to serve your objective on brand awareness, conversion, traffic, whatever it might be, before putting it to market? I mean, that's revolutionary. I mean, you can just see the huge benefit there, rather than kind of like post-testing analysis, rather than even what we were doing a few years ago with multiple multiple node testing and stuff. So there's advantages there. I think stepping one back from kind of storytelling, I think our biggest thing coming outside of kind of creative is when we're using AIs in strategy and stuff. So we really know enough about what's going in some of these models at the moment. So that ability to create things that are the truth. It's like, well, where are you getting your source? Where's the source material coming from? So we've got to be wary around that. I think we'll see a big shift towards what are we training these models on? I think everybody wants their own LMM trained on their own data and their own insight. And I think we are starving some of these LMMs at the moment of real human insight. And then we get into this kind of daisy chain of poor data in, poor data out, which can massively skew things. I mean, I think that's the real danger. So it's not, as a marketer, do you need to be more data savvy than before? Probably you do. You probably need to really understand how these tools work. If you're going to sit there and present something, and then not just take it for granted, just really kind of understand the implications of it. But I say that, what are your thoughts at the moment? I know we both.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think one thing I'm finding really useful is where I just talk to Claude for like 10 minutes. I've got an idea, but I haven't articulated it very well. And especially at the end of the week when my brain is not 100%, I can just talk to Claude for 10 minutes and be like, and then ask it questions. And it will help me curate and just articulate that story. And it's using, to your point about if it's bad stuff going in, if it's not great stuff going in, you're not going to get anything great going out. I think where it's used best is where you say, read this transcript of this call we've just had. tell me 5 of the most interesting points that were made, and then you keep talking to it and changing and using that. So it's not about using the creativity and the facts and the story and the experience are coming from the human in the loop point, but they're helping you to articulate it and repurpose it. And for this, for example, we're recording it on StreamYard. We'll get the transcript from Otter. We'll then put that in and probably have a play about with it with Claude to get some ideas that will start their blog, and then thinking about, I'll put this into Opus Clips, and Opus Clips will tell me the 10 most viral clips from it. And actually they might not be perfect, but when you haven't got that much time, actually it's way better than what you would have done when you don't have 2-3 hours to keep going back through and focusing on that part. I think we were laughing about Riverside before, because I say so much, so I just want to move on to Riverside so you can take out my ums. I mean, what the joy is that? I can't afford to pay somebody to edit for me. But I think all those things, I think it's how we're using them and bringing them into be more efficient and more effective. And definitely the smaller teams that we work with need that. And back to sort of startups have to punch above their weight. We need to find ways that we can make sure that they're not doing the admin and the energy draining parts of their day. They're focusing on what's really going to make the difference and using their experience and their brains to get that further. But I definitely, I have to admit, I haven't used Pencil yet, but I'm definitely, it's on my list of
give it a go.
Ones I want to try.
I should have an affiliate code about to talk about it.
Yeah.
Maybe just speak to them. I think you're right. I think that's that idea of punching. Again, how do you resource a small team? I mean, it's brilliant for it. I mean, if you're not doing, and I think where many people have slipped up is asking too much of it or asking the wrong things. And then, especially if kind of GPTs and stuff, they're not asking the right things or in the right way. You're not asking for originality and creativity. You're asking for opinion, research, or pulling things from it. I think when you create me a bad example, create me a LinkedIn post, I mean, what dribbles are going to come up with? It's like
I mean, I tell you what, we've been hiring a growth strategist, and we've got the most amazing person about to start. But before Christmas, when we were doing it, we had some people do the sort of test, which is only supposed to take an hour anyway. But you could tell a couple of people that put them in, it was straight from ChatGPT. And it wasn't even, they didn't even tweak it. It was cut and paste a task into ChatGPT.
And here's the kicker. That's always the tells.
Oh, it's just so painful. But yeah, I think it's definitely, how can you use it and make sure that it's helping you from an admin point of view and saving the time so that you can be doing things better and improving. But I don't think it can't replace, and you definitely shouldn't be just using it for the creativity part.
And I think as well, I think we all need to get better at not painting kind of AI with the same broad brush. Because I think the day-to-day kind of the assistants, as it were, and agents we use. And then I think the whole spectrum, something I've spent a lot of time in for the past few years is those kind of SaaS platform solutions as well that use different elements of AI. So some fantastic it kind of AI is a good phrase at the moment because it helps with investment, it helps all the things we know, but essentially machine learning in its capacity. I mean, you've got things that as a startup would help you punch above your weight hugely. There's a great one I love at the moment called Nibble that sits at checkout rather than doing discount codes and negotiates using natural language processing. Phenomenal. You've got things like Maybe with Intent that look at actually what people are doing on your site, and their whole mission is to get people off the crack of like, people are not always there to convert, and so they've come in with a really low price product that could sit there and go, well, look, if you're generating this traffic, we know if they're buying, we know if they're browsing, we know if they're just taking 300 signals, and you're going, well, that's really smart. And then that creative ideation piece, like it's brilliant for bringing those ideas to life. I mean, one thing we did a few years ago now was just look at how you could use it for food photography, food video. So one of the big things around any kind of brand in that space, it costs quite a lot of money to do a food shoot. I've heard of a food stylist and everything else, and then you create something that looks good enough to eat, and then you have the debate. We're going, well, should we tell people, like, is it it's not real? And then you look, and then and I know the space particularly well. You go, well, food stylists paint turkeys with Marmite to make them look bronzed for Christmas. They don't really come out that brown. Yeah, they use PVA glue when you're making pizza slices come up, so give it that stringy look. Do we tell consumers about that, or do we just hold back on that? And I think in that context, and it's a one that comes up a lot at the moment. Like, do consumers care? Like, what's the reaction to use it? Does it matter? And I don't know. I don't have the definitive answer on that, because I think if you talk to a man on the street about AI, you probably get a man on the street reaction.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar. We've been drawing comparisons to when we launched Yolt, and it was first to market in open banking. Everybody thought we should be talking about open banking. Nobody cares about open banking at all. Like, nobody cares about what's underneath. They care about what it gives them and what problem they're solving for them. And I think very quickly, as you say, like, everything is going to have a certain element of machine learning, Gen AI in it. And it has stopped being about it being an AI. It is just another tool in our box. And we all need to be careful that we're bringing together the right tech stack so that we can deliver really high quality to stand out and to cut through, because otherwise we won't. And I think that's where we need to get to.
I just would say one thought on that. I think it comes back to trust. So one of the things that you're always trying to do as a startup is establish trust quite quickly. If you're doing anything that can erode that or be seen to erode that, then I think you're in a difficult area. So maybe it is a transparency. Maybe we're listening to Alex Mahan's speech last night around trusting Gen Z from Channel 4's latest report, going, well, should we badge stuff? Should we badge stuff if it's and you're going, well, the speed that things go, content's produced, that's probably not a practical solution. But take a scenario. If I was in the fintech sector and I was using AI to create images or write copy or whatever it might be, I think I'd probably just own up to that and be like, we use AI because we're not Barclays, we can't afford a team of 30 content writers to
But I think also very quickly those chatbots will actually become smarter than the people that you can speak to, because it's actually taking everybody's joint intelligence and really and pulling that through and that constant memory and like building on that. So I think it's really interesting from that point of view. You see so many starting up in that way. But yeah, it's interesting. I went to the FCA to talk about that. We spent a day talking about that last week, which was really interesting, which is like, what is the policy around it? How much should people care? What do we say, and when do we tell them? Especially because it is looking at taking them through that decision-making process, and how can we make sure that they're being given the best possible advice? So yeah, I think it's a conversation that I'll keep going on. We have 100% run out of time, but it's so nice because we could talk all day. But thank you so much, Al. This will be out on Thursday in the newsletter, and and I'm sure, where can people talk to you more about storytelling?
Oh, follow me on LinkedIn. Link in the comments. I'm on a mission at the moment, so yeah, you'll probably find, I say almost daily, updates and insights around brand storytelling, content, and how we utilize AI in its best possible way. But give us a follow.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lucy. Cheers. Bye bye.